Quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things. Not about this case, though. About yourself. Quid pro quo. Yes or no? Yes or no, Clarice? Poor little Catherine is waiting.
Go, Doctor.
What is your worst memory of childhood?
Death of my father.
Tell me about it and don't lie, or I'll know.
He was a town marshal, and one night he surprised two burglars coming out of the back of a drugstore. They shot him.
Was he killed outright?
No, he was very strong. He lasted more than a month. My mother died when I was very young, so my father had become the whole world to me. And when he left me, I had nothing. I was 10 years old.
You're very frank, Clarice. I think it would be quite something to know you in private life.
You landed on The Substance. I'm your host, Philip Marinello. Whether it's your first episode or your 177th, we want to tell you welcome. Here at The Substance, we're looking to have conversations that help us all better appreciate goodness, truth, and beauty. Previous guests include folks like Film Spotting's Josh Larson, artist and musician John Guerra, actor-director John Carroll Lynch, New York Times film critic Alyssa Wilkinson, and Dan McCoy of the Flophouse podcast. This week, I'm so happy to have returning guest Tyler Huckabee back on the show. Currently, Tyler is the managing editor over at Sojourners, editing, he's writing, he's substacking. Really have enjoyed getting to know Tyler over the last several years, and it's been a while since he's been on the show. The last time he was with us, I think we talked about it off air. I don't think it's in the episode, but it was in my head. It wasn't too long ago, but it was a number of years ago. He was on for David Lynch's The Straight Story. That's currently, I believe, the only Lynch film we've done a full episode on. A teaser. We do have one coming soon with one of our guests from the Panic Fest episode. That's going to be coming down the pipeline here. That should be a good one. But that was a great time, and it's wonderful to have him back. So this week, we are covering actually a really big movie. One of the three films in the history of American cinema to win all five of the big Oscars. That is Best Director, Best Film, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. One of three to have ever done that. And it's a horror movie. So we're very excited to have this episode here. Hope you guys enjoy it. Reminder, the best way to support the show is to listen and to share it with people. Thank you for your time. There's a whole lot of podcasts out there with people who are a lot more famous than me and Tyler. So we appreciate you guys listening. So one, you've already done the most important one. Two, tell a friend. Text it to them, whatever social media you're on. We appreciate all those shares. And if you like it and tag us, we will happily engage. And then also, if you're not operating a motor vehicle right now, keep letting the show play, but open up your podcast app, hit that 5-star button. And if you're listening on Apple right now, maybe write a quick sentence or two about what you like about the show. It does help other people find it. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Tyler Huckabee on The Silence of the Lambs.
Well, Tyler, it's really great to have you back, man. I feel like it's been a long time coming. I see you're not a very regular Letterboxd user, but whenever you jump back on, everybody's like, "Oh, Tyler wrote a review." So every now and then I'm like, I got to get him back on for the right one. And then actually, so you mentioned before we were recording, and I do want to talk about it at the top. This is your first podcast episode since your new role at Sojourners, which is exciting. But this episode also has the distinction of, I'm double checking in my mind here real quick. I think I'm 100% certain this is the first Substance episode that was put together on Blue Sky. We're off the Twitter.
Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah.
Instagram, I'm still doing a lot, but this is our first
Sure.
episode brought to you by the Blue Sky DMs.
Who knew? The little social media site that could. That it does feel like I I feel I got a few feelings about Blue Sky. Most of them pretty positive. The first one was it felt like such a like, all right, I'm gonna try this out. Like you really felt like you were doing Twitter Lite on Blue Sky for a while.
Totally.
Like, you knew it wasn't quite as good. They didn't have the same level of bangers. It was a smaller crowd. At first, it was kind of weird,
The
and
invite only was weird.
it was
I
weird.
knew a lot of people did not like that.
It felt like such a cool kids club, and then you get in, you're like, these people really they got
Yeah,
in before
you're like,
I
there's
did.
like 100 people on here.
Yeah,
Like,
and they all have like anime avatars, and I felt like for a while like I just don't know if this is gonna work and if it's gonna be my thing. Um, and since then, I've gotten pretty like I don't really miss Twitter anymore. I do. I feel like I've got all my same. A lot of the people that I really like from Twitter are now over on Blue Sky. I'm sure I've lost a few, and if
like
I've
nostalgically, I miss Twitter, but I don't want to be on
sure.
it anymore.
No. I don't. Whenever I go back to just kind of check in and see how everybody's doing over there, I'm like, oh yeah, this is
Woof.
why I left. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
every
this
now
is
and then
not
I'll
fun
check if
anymore.
there's any new DMs, and I'll scroll for like 5 seconds and be like, "This is awful. Like, this is why I left."
No, it's all just like crypto. Like my DMs are flooded with crypto, and I don't know how because I protected my account, but they're still getting in. So that doesn't. I don't know. They're still finding me with their schemes to make me crypto rich. So I don't miss that. I hear people like making fun of how like Blue Sky's too woke for its own good. I haven't really experienced that. I don't know. I feel like that has not been. I know what people mean when they talk about sort of annoyingly like like woke, but like in an annoying way, not in an actually
Sure.
like substantively good way. I've encountered those types of people before. To me, there's no more of them on Blue Sky than there are anywhere else, and
No, that's not been my Blue Sky experience yet. I don't spend as much time on like it's not
which is
Twitter. Twitter was a
yeah,
beautiful, wonderful thing for I don't know, a decade or so, and then it ran its course and the Nazis and crypto and
yeah.
porn bots took over and it's the circle of life.
Yeah, I don't think for a while there was this huge push like we got to save Twitter. Twitter is the megaphone to the masses. We got to
I was
you
gonna
got
be
to
like, I'm
bring it
going
back
down
from
with the ship.
Nazis.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, man.
And then I'm
It's
like,
not the ark
nah.
of the it's not the ark of the covenant. You don't have to. I don't think it's nearly as powerful of a tool like politically or culturally as people like Elon Musk thinks it is. It's goofy and
Literally when he bought it, it went away. Like it was there because of us. Like we are the
yeah.
ones that gave it its power. And then there were a couple of waves of exodus, and I was like, I'm gonna stay here till it's done. But then it got so bad. I've been gone for several months and I don't miss it.
Gross. Yeah, same. I miss what it like you said, I miss what it was, but
Beautiful place.
I don't have any designs to try to rescue it or and it's probably for the best. We were all spending too much time on it anyway. It's
It's
fine.
true.
So now we've got Blue Sky. We set this all up fine. I can pretty much everything that I would like to find over on Twitter is coming my way on Blue Sky just
And
fine
the
now.
cool thing is, like, I mean, I already knew you and I was already connected to you. There's a couple of people of note who are on Blue Sky, and because it's smaller, like, it's easier to connect with cool
Yeah.
people you
Oh,
like.
for sure. Yeah, it definitely is. And it is, I'll say this, I'll just plug my organization now. Sojourners, we are on Blue Sky and we've had, as an organization, so much more success in just interacting with people than we did on Twitter. And you get a way more, your stuff isn't being pushed down by the algorithm. When you put a link in there, it actually gets to the audience you want it to get to. If I follow
Yeah.
somebody, I'm actually seeing their posts, which wasn't the case on Twitter towards the end there. It feels way it feels much better. And one very nice thing about Blue Sky is that block button. When you press block, it's like they go back in time and take over your blocking out as a baby. Like it is an effective tool. When I block you,
Nice.
you are gone from my life forever. And I like that. That's healthy. That's good for me.
A
I don't
healthy
don't take it
block is
personally.
good.
Yeah, if I blocked you on anything, it doesn't. I don't necessarily mean it in a personal way. But it doesn't mean I don't want to see your posts. And on Blue Sky, if I block you, I'm not seeing your, I'm not seeing them. So I like that.
Hopefully, Blue Sky doesn't have the auto block thing, because I'm pretty sure there are some people who I followed for years that all of a sudden I was like, wait, I'm blocked? Like, what happened? Like, I didn't even have an interaction with this person
Yeah.
that went sideways. Like, what in the world happened?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those where I'm like, why did you block me for it? But also, I know that every now and then I've been that person where I just, for some reason, the algorithm pushes me something in my feed, and I'm like, nope, I don't like
Don't
this.
need to see
Take it.
that.
Yeah,
Sure. Well, this has been Social Media Hour, Social Media
yeah, no,
Corner.
yeah. Everybody loves talking about social media. I'm sure that's all going in there. Leave that in. That's for the real ones.
So we brought up Sojourners just as a little catch up before we get into the our main course here.
Yeah,
Silence of the Lambs, a big one. Like here at the Substance, like for our substantive cinema episodes, like there's not really like, oh, I'm saving the big ones for special guests
sure.
exactly, but there are a couple ones where I'm like, because I have a long running list that when people are interested, we're talking, I send it out to them. But there are a few where I'm like, I wouldn't want to talk about some of these movies with anybody. And no disrespect to people who are like, oh, let me do this, this, and this. It's just like this is a big one, and I'm excited
Yeah.
to have you on for
Sure.
also a Blue
I
Sky.
appreciate that. What an honor. Yeah, this is a big. This movie is extremely important to me. It is, I think, this is, a couple of months ago, I was in one of my group chats that I'm in with the fellas. We were all doing our top tens, and Silence was on my top 10 movies of all time. And I think, your top
Just
10
period
changes.
all time. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, top 10 movies ever. And that changes. It would change next week. It'd be a different list than it was a few weeks ago when I did this. But Silence, I think, is probably locked in. That is
Nice.
for me, this movie is extremely important.
Yeah, so it was on your Blue Sky favorite movies thread, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's the right time to cover that, and Tyler's
Okay. Oh, that's great.
Tyler'd be a great one for that. So, but before we get into that, let's catch up on your life. You've
Sure.
had some big personal and professional changes since 2022, I guess, when the last time we had you on. The world was not amazing, but different.
Sure. Things are different now. I am now, I've only been in this role for a few months, but I'm the managing editor of Sojourners. Sojo.net is where you can find us. It is a long-standing, it's 50 some years old. So I should know this probably, but I don't. I think it's something like 50 years old. Social justice and faith magazine, started out of Washington, D.C. by Jim Wallace. Started out as a intentional community known as the Beloved Community. That sort of morphed over time into being an organization that focused on activism, mostly for social justice causes here in the U.S., abroad, and then an editorial wing developed out of that, which is now where I'm doing my work at, and have been for 3 months now.
Which is exciting, because I mean, you've always kind of been in those circles regardless of publication, like culture, faith, justice, like what's going on in the world. Like that's always kind of been your beat.
Yeah, it felt like a really fortuitous move when it happened. When I left my last full-time job, before I went freelance for a few years, I left a Christian organization, and I remember, I think I told my wife something like this, that I don't think I would ever really want to work for a professional Christian outlet again. I think I've done my time there. Unless maybe something opened up at Sojourners, I would do that. And then the
Nice.
monkeypox crawled, and sure enough, a few years later, here I am. But I really couldn't be. I couldn't be happier there so far. It's been a good. It's tough. Obviously, social justice in the U.S. right now is in kind of an interesting place. A lot of the causes that Sojourners is extremely focused on and very concerned about, and has been for almost half a century now, are under more threat than they have been at any point in our time as an organization. But it also feels good to be working with a team like the one that I have there, who are very committed to that cause, who are very committed to oppressed voices, to causes that are not popular in the U.S., frankly, not popular in the church generally, the mainstream mainstream Christianity has often not been the best proponent some of the causes we care about at Sojourners. So it means a lot to be part of just some giants of the faith who are working for this organization, have been for a long time, and I'm learning a lot from them. And I would, if if any of that sounds interesting to you, then I hope you come check us out over there at sojo.net.
Yeah, been enjoying the content. You got me very strongly considering subscribing to a paper publication again. The
Okay, hey, let's
digital's
go.
great, but I love
Hey,
having paper. My wife's like, "Do we really need more paper?" And I was like, "I feel like we might actually. We'll see."
it's a good magazine. Now, I should say I'm not super involved with the magazine. I'm mostly the website, but but maybe that's for the best because the mag's got a really good thing going right now. It's a really good product. It's
See if
been
I
going
can.
on for a long time. It's good. It's good. They're doing good work.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get some of my local libraries to subscribe. So
There you go.
one way
That's
or
the
the other,
ticket.
I can get it.
That's the ticket. Highly
Um,
recommend. Tell them I sent you. I don't think it'll do anything for you,
hey,
but
the managing
you
editor
never know.
says you
You
should buy
never
a
know.
subscription. But yeah, no, I'm sure I will be in touch with you. I've enjoyed a lot of the materials. I know a few people involved, but I always get excited when people I know or have connections with get plugged in at such great organizations. One, just for the work that they do, but then selfishly, I'm like, ooh, Tyler's going to be connected with a ton of great people I could have and
Oh
talk
yeah, for
about
sure.
their work, their focuses, their missions. Like you said, a lot of great people, some that have been doing it for a long time, some that are like exciting, new, younger, fresh, energetic voices. So excited to see what all y'all do over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I've definitely got some names just off the dome right now that I could connect you with who would be great fits for this podcast for sure. And then obviously anybody out there who has who listens to this who has any good ideas, something that we should be published, hit me up too. I'm always taking pitches.
Beautiful. Well, let's transition into the main course here. Silence of the Lambs, top 10 of all time, pretty
Yeah.
solidly locked in. Like when I think about that question, like there's a few titles that pop up, but yeah, like it's like you said, if you're a real movie lover, you'd be like, man, I could probably give you a top 100 and that might change like year
Sure.
to year.
Sure.
But I love talking with people about movies that they're so passionate about. So would love to hear kind of your history and relationship. How did your relationship with Silence of the Lambs begin?
Oh, that's a good question. I think so this movie comes out in 91. I was 6 years old. So
Probably not quite
I did
ready.
not see it in the theaters when it came out. I remember totally being like that cover with Jodie Foster's face, and just the moth with the death's head that's over it is such a like as a little kid you see that and you're like what is going on? It's disturbing, but it's not like gory. It's just there's something about it that is very gripping. And then of course I think you hear so much about Hannibal Lecter, like you're absorbing the jokes and the
The late great Hannibal Lecter.
satires. Yeah, yeah, well, exactly. Some people think he's real. That's how much he's infiltrated our culture. I remember like Billy Crystal at the Oscars. I think they like wheeled him out in the stretcher with I remember seeing that. I think Simpsons I'm sure Simpsons at some point did some sort of parody of it. So it was in just my milieu for a long time before I think, if I remember right, I think it wasn't maybe until I was home from college over a summer break. I was 18, 19 years old, and my brother and I rented it to watch one night at home. And I remember that so clearly. Like, there's so many movies that I love that I don't really remember where I first saw them. But that movie is just such a gut punch throughout, so many memorable moments in it. Um, Especially, I mean, so many especiallys, but I will probably never forget the first time I saw the end with the night vision goggles, which is such a strange, daring, never really seen anything like it again, uh, way to go about your finale, your final showdown, whatever it is that. However, I have no idea how they shot that scene. I have no idea if Jodie Foster was actually like in a totally blackout room and couldn't see where Buffalo Bill or Ted Levine was. Uh, but she is playing somebody who does not know that her enemy is like right behind her, and you feel like you were on still. still, and I rewatched a few clips of it before to prep for this, and it's such a your nails are in your knees the entire time watching it. Um, but I also think on rewatches, what really gets you is how easily that movie could have been pretty bad, or just even very forgettable, just kind of your standard
Yeah,
straightforward
your cop
slasher. But
killer. How many cop
yeah,
killer movies are there? Yeah.
there's hundreds of these, right? Thousands of these, and we've seen
Like
obviously.
based on an airport novel. Like, yeah, like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, this book's sold. People know what it is. Good guy, bad guy, the end. Like,
Yeah, and we kind of let all right. So there's like there's a little I mean, this movie spawned so many copycats. It's got to be one of the more influential movie films just based on its success alone. People are like, well, you kind of do it like Silence of the Lambs. They have like there's a relationship or something like that, or he's a cannibal. Let alone just the attempts to try to keep doing the Hannibal thing with the TV show and the other
there are a
actors they
lot.
would bring in to try to do that. But Jonathan Demme, the director, brings such a humanity to this movie. Every character in this movie is so dimensional, is so fleshed out, and Demme just seems like somebody who's interested in people, who thinks people are interesting, and he wants to analyze them and see what makes them tick, what makes them the way they are, and that extends not only to obviously to Clarice Starling, our hero, who is given a very who gives like an amazing performance, a really really good performance, but is very thoughtfully done, is very human. Also, of course, to Hannibal, who, despite him being a sociopath, is also given that dimension. So much so that you end up almost kind of rooting for him at some points in it, or you're gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, he's not so bad. He's not such a bad guy. But even Buffalo Bill, this character who is so gross and so twisted, and the put the lotion thing is so weird, but Demi understands that he is a person who's in a lot of pain and is a person who doesn't know what to do with. I'll say his identity. I know that there's like kind of a question about the gender in this movie, and I know that that is a little bit of a controversial move that some people don't love. The movie definitely doesn't want you to think of Buffalo Bill as a trans person. They kind of bends over backwards to be like, he thinks he's trans, but he's not really. He's so
Yeah,
I'll,
and this was in the 90s. They're like,
I
this is
know
not
it's
what
so
we are
weird.
commenting on. They're like,
Yeah,
Jonathan Demme's like, we are not taking shots at this community.
they like he like both dives, he both cannonballed into that whole debate and like tries to kind of then like get back out really quick. Like, don't worry, he's not actually trans. It's not that sort of thing. But his name is Buffalo Bill. I'll call him a he. But he is depicted in a way, despite being nothing he does is excused or anything like that. But he is depicted as a real person who cares about his dog and who is confused by his victims and his intended victims, and even his victims down in the well. She's given a lot of agency, and she's allowed to be smart, and she almost gets away. Like, I think if Clarice hadn't showed up, she probably would have figured a way out of there sooner or later. So I really love how almost tender this movie gets throughout, despite how grisly and terrifying it is. Because I think that all goes back to the director who really cared about the people in this movie and wanted to see what would happen if he put them all in a pressure cooker.
Yeah, no, I think that I completely agree. One of the undeniable strengths of the movie is just how, like you said, everybody's a fully fleshed out character. And in addition to that, the movie comes at like I've this has become higher on my list for a long time. I think I even had that in some of my previous letterbox logs. Manhunter is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah,
For a long time, I like had a chip on my shoulder, like Manhunter's the best one, and I know that
yeah.
Williams won all the Oscars and it swept and blah blah blah. Anthony Hopkins was on screen for like 10 minutes and he has an outsized cultural footprint, blah blah blah. It doesn't touch Manhunter. And in some ways, like I still do prefer Manhunter, but I'm like, no. especially the last 10 years, each time I revisit, I'm like, this is just undeniable. It's one of those movies, I mean, the Oscars, movie fans, Oscars are not the end all be all, but it's nice in cases where something is truly undeniable. Like every department in this film did just like like grade A incredible work.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was on point. And Jonathan Demme, I was listening to the commentary track. He said this was the only film, and as of recording that, whenever that was, I think it was the late 90s for the Criterion Laserdisc. Um, that was the first and only film up until that point that he signed on as a director without seeing the script, because he loved
Oh, I didn't know that.
it and he loved the guy writing it, and he's like, I would love to kind of put my spin on that story because it's so great.
Huh.
So he had some sort of connection to it. But I mean, if you are familiar with the movie, audience, I think it's now currently streaming on Max. I was a little worried that it wouldn't be anywhere, but it just came back on Max, which I guess is soon to be HBO Max again. Maybe by the time this gets out, who knows?
It was always HBO Max to us real once. I never let
100%.
go. I knew I'd be vindicated.
But just like perception, I haven't seen this yet on the big screen. I do have a couple of great rep cinemas here in Kansas City, and I'm sure one of these days I'll get to see it on a big screen. But like the way the film looks at faces and eyes, like it's definitely a device, but it's such an effective one. And I think that particularly with Hannibal, like Anthony Hopkins' performance has such power because so often like you are right there with him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Looking at him, you're
look,
in either Clarice's gay or the family of the kidnapped victim, or when they do that scene outside of the airplane.
mhm.
Demi kind of loves doing that signature. It's almost his signature shot insofar as he has a signature shot, that POV where you are, I guess the actor is delivering lines right into the camera,
Darn near,
can't,
yeah.
can't be very, that can't feel natural. Although I think Demi had a reputation for being actors enjoyed working with him. I think he was considered a fun director to have around. But even I think the big monologue that Clarice gives halfway through the actual Silence of the Lambs monologue, so much of that is you're looking at her, panning back and forth between her and then sometimes Hannibal's reactions to what she's saying. And it got me a little emotional this time because um, when Clarice says she's talking about she was an orphan, her mom died, and then her dad was shot, hung on. He was strong, hung on for a while, but then he died too. And Hannibal, it's such a good performance from Hopkins. He doesn't give her the satisfaction of knowing that he cares, but he closes his eyes just a little bit when he hears that line, just that little like, and then he died, and then he's just like, oh, like, oh, that's tough, kid. Like there is a real empathy. I don't think empathy. That's probably not quite the right word because I don't think he's an empathic person.
Fascinating. Like Hannibal and Clarice's dynamic is so fascinating. And
Yeah,
listeners, if you have thoughts, send in a voicemail, send in emails. But it is so interesting because like actual police procedure, FBI profiling, like this movie, just like Manhunter, had a lot of like expert like people involved in shaping it, going like, we
yeah,
want this to have like a very much like to ring true. So like Hannibal is like evil, like very, very
yeah.
evil, and he is nearly an empty shell. Like sociopathy, I guess, has had a big comeback
Sure.
now, and we see that a lot. And sometimes the most evil people are not malicious, mustache twirling people, but people who are empty, who don't really have creeds or ideas. They're just like empty vessels who want to whatever in the moment they feel like will further themselves. Like that's what they're all about. Hannibal's not quite like that. He has like a sliver of that humanity that Jack feels. I don't know
Uh-huh.
how exactly, but he sees
He has a
Clarice and he's like,
rich
I think
He has a rich
Clarice will.
interior life. He
Yes.
does. There's something going on. He's smart, and I think you're right that there's something about Clarice that he finds interesting, um, almost because she seems like she approaches him because she has almost a respect for him or approaches him. She's it's almost just that she's courteous to him. Like she gives him just the courtesy of being calling him Dr. Lecter. Like she
Yeah.
she respects his that he's a man of education. That he has some expertise in the field that she's coming to him for, and she doesn't try to big dog him. She doesn't try to, hey, you got to be nice. I'm with the FBI. And he tries to push her at first. He's very, at first he's gross to her, and he
Well,
tries
he's
to get a rise
insulted
out
at
of her.
first because he
Yeah,
realizes that she's a trainee, and he's like, "Why?" Scott Glenn's character Jack Crawford. He's like, "Why is Jack Crawford sending a trainee to like
yeah,
profile me?" He's almost insulted, but then there's something about Clarice that's like hard to pin down, but he finds something in her that he's like, oh, like I like this girl. I
yeah.
want to know her. He has that one line that is both very sweet and very creepy. What does he say? I wrote it down. He says, "You're very frank, Clarice. I think it would be quite something to know you in private life." And it is both, it's kind of sweet and nice, but it's also kind of terrifying because of who he
Yeah,
is. It's like, I
yeah,
don't think I want to like know and be known by this
yeah,
guy.
yeah. and
But
she, but she kind of clocks him. She kind of figures out like, okay, this is and they call it out in the quid pro quo scene where she actually calls
that's
a
an
spade,
all-timer, yes.
which is just such a good scene where she's like, "Oh, I see how this works. I give you something, and then you give me something," which is
And
what they've
she
been doing
immediately
all
turns
along.
and she
But
immediately
she
like she learns the
clocks it.
trick
Yeah.
immediately
Uh-huh.
because the whole, and it's a trope that's been done, like you said, this movie inspired the like catch, like use a bad guy to catch a bad guy. Like obviously
Uh-huh.
that had been done before, but it, the way it was done so well here spawned a million lesser mirrors of that. But she's like, okay, like you need to help me catch this guy. He's like, I pretty much have it all. And she's like, okay, like tell me about it. And then the quid pro quo of, okay, like I will cookie crumb this out for you, like as you give me things. And every time she's like close to a thing, he'll pull the rug out from under her. But the first time he does that, she like turns that around on him immediately. She's like, I'll
Yeah.
give you like, you're gonna give me a one word answer and then turn it on me. Like I'll give you a one word answer and turn it around on you. And like
Uh-huh.
there is that respect that's forged in that weird, I think, not in any sort of, I mean there's different readings and some of the other books and movies take it into places that I don't know if it was originally intended, but there's not like a romantic or sexual tension there, but there is like an attraction and like a mutual fascination and interest between these two.
I think they both recognize something in each other that is so hard to pin down, which part of what makes this movie so good is you don't quite get it. Like it's just a little bit beyond you, which allows you to map your own, like, well, what do you think is happening here? Because they don't, it's not that they like each other, because they don't exactly. um I think he likes her, or at least
Definitely.
he finds her interesting enough. But I think he's kind of a cannibal just in every, if he doesn't think you're interesting, then he just wants to kill you and eat you. If he does think you're interesting, then he kind of just wants to feast on what's going on in your life. What are your experiences? And she understands that, and she's willing to offer those up to him in a way that's very, very vulnerable and very hard. During the Silence of the Lambs monologue is, difficult to hear, but also moves him very profoundly insofar as he can be moved. Um, Mostly because it seems like he's almost grateful to have been given something instead of having
Absolutely.
to take it away, or to sneak, or to violently take it, or to trick somebody into giving it to him, which is why he's willing to work with her on the Buffalo Bill case.
Yeah, the mutual humanity there. And there were one or two shots in particular that I clocked on this view of when she would give up something particularly vulnerable and he would literally like turn his face away. And it was
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, that you're giving me so much, like I don't know what to do with all that, or like out of
Yeah.
respect, or it's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's quite a performance from really everybody involved here. Like is operating is just bang on all cylinders, and I think that it's also like it's very notable. I think in this movie, the gender is both all over this movie, but almost never commented on exactly. It's
Thank God it wasn't
yeah,
like
exactly. Well, yeah, because if you made this movie today, it would be like Clarice would be like, you know, with her friend. What I can't remember the name of her friend, who we don't see her very much, but she's very very good in this.
yes,
Um, what is her name? Can't remember. It's played by Casey Lemons, whoever it is. Um, but there would be some scene where they're like, well, as you know, Clarice, we have to work twice as hard as all the men in this here in this FBI, and they'd make Hannibal some sort of like faux woke ally, like he'd say something like the future is female, and that's why I'm helping you out here. But 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 they like very wisely they make it the very very famous shot that it's so good, and I forgot how early it comes where she gets into the
the
elevator with all
elevator.
the guys,
Oh,
which is so good, and they don't need to say anything, but you are in every room that Clarice walks into in this movie, and you were with her basically the entire time. Her being a woman is a factor in the scene, but it's not without. Other than I think there is one point where Scott Glenn on the way back from the
that's like
autopsy
in the
scene.
middle of the movie. I want to get to that at some point, because that's watching it and then going back and listening to the commentary. I'd never really seen that scene as like that's like the crux of the movie, where kind of everything changes, and they do have, and the way they actually handle it is pretty interesting, because you can kind
Yeah,
of watch it passively and be like, oh, like this is what that scene was saying. But then if you really look at specifically what was said, you're like, oh, like that's really interesting.
yeah. I think it is a coming on the heels of the autopsy scene, which is such a good scene, like such a creepy, hard to watch, sad scene. It's probably as close to actual like gore as this movie really gets. It's not a very gory movie, given the benefit of hindsight, other than this autopsy and then the very very end during the escape.
Yeah.
Um, but the autopsy is tough to watch. And then what her line is, what she says like what you say matters or something like that, or how
Yeah.
you it matters how you act.
It was something along the lines of like, people look to you. Like, I know that you're not
Yeah,
saying I'm lesser than, and I even understand like if you're using it as a tactic to a degree, but it has an effect, and people look to you, and if you're the top guy and treating me like that, you're kind of giving everybody permission to.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he gives and his response is point taken, versus, oh, you're right and I'm sorry about that. Like, it's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting, because before I'm like, oh yeah, like he gets it, but then he says like point taken, so it's almost like still not fully
it's
giving her
almost
the
that.
point.
Yeah, yeah. He's not. He's really good. Scott Glenn performance. I love Scott Glenn.
Really
It's
good.
such a fun. Like he's got such a. He's not in that much. He doesn't do a whole lot. And I think if I remember my lore correctly, there was maybe a romantic in the books. There's like
Yes,
a like they're having
correct,
like
there
almost an
was.
affair, maybe,
Yes.
or like
Yeah,
something.
his wife was dying in the book, and I think he and Clarice were like
Yeah,
an occasional thing, not like fully together.
wisely struck that. I don't think this
My
movie. I think it would
goodness.
have been. Yeah, that would have made it just way too overstuffed. And
And it much weaker. Like the
uh
movie's feminist themes would have been like
yeah,
way
it doesn't
weaker.
work anymore. Yeah, it does. It really doesn't. It wouldn't land nearly as hard. And there's you can tell they have a sort of complicated relationship, but you don't get the sense here that it's anything besides like boss and trainee, and that's only as complicated as any older man with a young woman. it can be sometimes, especially in a high stakes situation like this, and especially when he's sending her in to talk to a serial killer cannibalist
Well,
because
Hannibal even like prods her on that,
yeah,
and
he does.
she's
He
always
can
honest with
he
them.
knows
She's
what's
like,
going on. Yeah.
yeah, she's like, no, like that's irrelevant. Like what he may or may not think in the recesses of his mind about me is irrelevant. Like we're colleagues.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And because she also, what makes her right for this job is that she knows when to play his game and when to be like, that's not, you're breaking the rules. She almost kind of sets her own boundaries in a way that he respects. I
Well,
think he
because he's all
respects.
about like civility, like the character of like the refined psychopath is also kind of what makes it so scary because he's not like the Joker or some kind of
Uh-huh. Yeah.
like guy who's had a break with reality. And a lot of the people he harms and the stories he tells about the people he has harmed are like he doesn't like people who are rude. He doesn't like
Yeah.
people who are like lazy and who don't take responsibility. Like he doesn't like people who like are outside of like appropriate etiquette and
Yeah, he sort of twisted the rules of like civility or
exactly.
gentlemanliness in his mind and lives according to those. And she clocks that because probably to a certain extent she's also had to live in a world of men where she's had to figure out what their rules are for each other, and so she can kind
Totally.
of play. She kind of gets those rules or intuits those rules at least, and that allows her. And I think he respects people who respect themselves. Like he respects that she stands up for herself. She respects that she's willing to double cross him because it shows she's not afraid of getting her hands dirty when it comes down to it. And I think that all it it shows that they have a profound respect, at least for the
Yes.
humanity of each other, if not for, even if they despise each other's actions, or the fact
Sure.
that she works for the law, or she obviously despises a great many things about him, as we all should and do. But she doesn't let that get in the way of being like, you're still a human being, a person who I need to treat as a human being and a person. And that is just something that so many movies, even good movies, even movies that aren't horror movies or slashers or whatever, however you want to categorize this, just don't really care about their characters very much. But in this one, every person counts to a certain degree. Every death counts.
And on the note of the deaths, so I had seen, like you said, it was very like pervasive in pop culture. I didn't see this movie. I'm a little bit younger than you. I definitely didn't see it for quite a while. I also pretty sure I saw it in college the first time all the way through. Like I
Uh-huh.
had seen scenes on TV here and there,
Sure.
and like I knew the movie, I knew some of the big set pieces and some of the bits of dialogue that were like very famous and had seen like the reels of it. But I remember right away two things at the very like obviously there's the iconic elevator scene,
Uh-huh.
but I remember when we're first introduced to Lecter, he's just standing there
Oh, it's so good. It's
like
maybe the
like
it might
rigid
really be
at
the best intro of any
like
character.
he's
It's
standing there
so
at
good.
attention, hyper aware, just looking dead at you. And you're
Uh-huh.
like, whoa, this is very unsettling. So
Coming
that
on
was
the
just,
heels of her walking down this like parade of horrors of
yeah.
everybody else in that long line. It feels almost like a haunted house thing where every cage
Yeah.
has some new like terrifying villain,
Well,
and
and on
you're
her way back, I mean, I don't know how explicit you want to be, but like
sure
her interaction with
it
Miggs
gets
on the way
gross.
out
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the first time I saw it, like I was
Oh,
horrified.
it's
Like
gross. Yeah,
that's still gnarly.
it's a very jarring. It's probably the that might be the grossest this movie really gets, at least until
Definitely.
the face scene
I
in
mean,
the
even then the
ambulance.
face ripping, like
Yeah, and it's
that
what's
was
funny is
repulsive.
Hannibal also hates it. Like he's
Exactly.
as
That's the
grossed
thing.
out by
Like
it as you are.
the first death in the movie that we experienced, like there's like there have already been killings that brings Clarice into it. But yeah, Hannibal killing Miggs, like an honor killing for Clarice's
To
sake,
avenge Clarice.
is
Yeah.
is kind of how it starts, and that's really fascinating.
That he can't abide. I mean, it's what you said earlier. He really can't abide rudeness. Like he does not like when people are rude to him or rude to people that he doesn't think deserves it. And he
Yeah.
says, "What's it?" His line in there is something like, "I'm terribly embarrassed" or something like that.
Yeah.
That's very like almost like it.
Like, I'm sorry
He
you had to experience that.
yeah, he reacts as if somebody like accidentally tipped over a like got too drunk at a party or something like that instead of this life scarring event that she's just experienced. And I think that's where you first start to, because at first he's so cold and he's trying so hard to get a rise out of her that you're almost, it's
Well,
a
and he
little
cuts her really
closer.
deep. That whole like "you look like a rube" speech, which is a
Yeah.
little funny, but it's very cutting. Like
It's very mean.
he's trying to dominate her and see if
Yeah,
he
it's a little
can
more of the
really.
it's a little more of the Brian Cox interpretation of the character. And it's a little closer to that version
Little
of Hannibal
gruff.
Lecter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
A
kind
little
of
bit
like
less
almost
refined.
a little bit of a bully. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but then something gets tripped in him when he sees her like honor being violated by this guy, and that makes him feel like he owes something to her. He almost feels responsible for her after that,
Yeah. Yeah. Really,
which
like,
sends her out on the to the another really really good scene at the like that cargo
yes.
little thing that she has
It's
to
like, all
go
right, I'll
to,
give
like a
you
weird
a little, and that's
the
when you
storage
see it,
unit,
like, it
basically.
makes you feel a little bit smart as an audience, like, oh, she's solving his little clues. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's not really about that. And yeah, it's such
It's
a wonderful screenplay. Everything about
yeah,
this is phenomenal.
like you said, it really does feel like it captures everybody just banging on all cylinders. It won the it's one of three movies, is that right, to win the Big Five? The picture, best director, actor, actress, screenplay.
Yeah, there's only it's less than 5 have done it.
It's that
Um,
one, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I'm not gonna be able to remember the others, but I know
yeah.
there's not many.
It's only 3 or 4 that have done that.
And I think that one's such a surprise because the Academy famously hates horror movies, does not
Sure.
like giving awards to horror movies. No other horror movie has ever won Best Picture, even in years when the horror like there's probably, you could make the case that Jordan Peele deserved Best Picture at some point so far in his career, but
Sure.
the Academy would just never give it to a horror movie, let alone a horror movie made by a black guy. Like that's just going to be too much for them. We'll see what happens with Sinners this year. I'd be surprised.
I don't think that'll, I
But
mean, maybe it'll get like a Michael B. Jordan nod or an
yeah,
effects.
they'll give it like a little pat on the head or something, like best
The
original
music was
song.
great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it deserves attention. We'll see what happens, but I think it deserves
I
attention.
mean, honestly, original screenplay would not be out of place.
It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that the Oscars
Sure.
go for anymore. But and they didn't at the time of this either. And I think that was the year Oliver Stone had JFK, which
It was a
was
big year,
very
yeah.
well received. Yeah, really good year. But that's probably my favorite Oliver. I'm kind of being an Oliver Stone fan is kind of complicated.
Yeah, not a big
It,
Oliver.
you have to
He's a
take
guy I
I do like
respect
JFK.
more than I
Yeah,
like.
that's a good way to. I like JFK. I like Born on the Fourth of July, but he's kind of when he gets really tinfoil hat, then things
Yeah.
can get kind of complicated with him. But JFK is a good movie. I think Oscars were prepared to be like, all right, Stone, here's you've earned your time in the sunlight. But I think then Sons of the Lambs hits, and it's just such a great.
Complete, like, because it
I think
works on
it
every
hits so
level.
well. Yeah.
It's an exciting, like, if you want to go for a date night for something thrilling, like, it's
Uh-huh.
exciting entertainment, but then you can keep going back to it and be like, wow, this is really wonderfully written. This is really wonderfully, like, put together, like, structurally the story,
Uh-huh.
like, this is like one you would teach in a class. Like,
Oh, easy
everything
for
is
sure.
structured so
Yeah.
well, all the performances, the shots, like, it really kind of is the total. I mean, it's an R-rated crime thriller about a
Sure.
cannibal helping the FBI stop, like, a deranged
A
serial
sadistic,
murderer,
yeah.
but like
It's very
it is also
rewatchable
wildly rewatchable.
in a way that a lot of even like scary movies that I like, I don't often find them like, you know what I could do? Just sit down on the couch tonight and pop on, you know, you name it, whatever it would be. Uh,
Because you
The
can think
Witch,
about it
for
and talk
example.
about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like
yeah. And
it's
it
such a rich text.
and I do think it has to come to back to Demi's like appreciation and love for these characters. I think that there is you are not you are watching people try to struggle with their past and their hurt and with emotions they don't really understand. Um, and you also get like a kick-ass scene at the end, like the escape from the prison is very, very
Oh,
fun to
the
watch. It's such
face.
a it's famous for a reason. It's so fun to watch it happen, and you feel so weird rooting for when you finally. They don't even have to. It's weird rewatching it how little they explain. Like you, you basically get you don't see anything that he does. He's
Well,
off.
you hate Chilton. Like it
Yeah, yeah. Chilton, you're like that guy
in
needs to get
all of
his.
exactly in all of the and I've seen most of that. Honestly, like I haven't rewatched Young Hannibal in a long time, and I don't think I would like it as
Uh-huh.
much. But like I saw that when it came out, and I was like, honestly, a little bit good, not bad. But
No,
like
I don't. It's
I
not
think
bad.
every property that has had a Chilton in it, like it's such a good, like weaselly, like character that like you love to hate. And I
Uh-huh.
think that particularly like with Chilton going around the FBI purely for his like reputation and trying to like get a deal with the senator and like get his name out onto the news, like that really does help because you're like F this guy,
Yeah,
like
for
Hannibal
sure.
needs to take him down a peg. And then like the nameless, basically faceless, like SWAT guys, like
Uh-huh.
obviously that's not good that he's killing those guys, but
No,
it,
no.
like
It's
you're kind of
Chilton's
on his
fault.
side at that point.
Chilton put them
Yeah.
in a bad situation, and I do think you. It's the most macabre that this movie gets, considering it's a very macabre movie. But he like you know in a very short amount of time somehow people talk about this he has to set up this stunning death tableau that looks like it
That is
was
the one thing.
shot by Roger Deakins.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it rocks. It's very cool, but you don't see any of that until the very end when he like pops up on the ambulance, rips the face off, and then
Oh, that
you
scene, yeah.
immediately get it. The way it clicks, like, oh, I see what he did. He cut the guy's face off and put it on his own face and changed clothes. So he look like it's the movie really trusts you to figure out a fairly complicated series of events
That happened very quickly,
that
but
had
don't
to have
think
happened
about
very
that.
quickly, and another movie would have loved like showing you, him getting out the knife and chopping it up, and it'd get pretty gross. And I understand, the grisly appeal to a movie like this to do something like that, but it's so much more effective that it leaves it all to your It's the Jaws thing, where what you
Oh,
imagine is going to
yeah.
be way scarier than what you actually put on screen. And so that just hits so well, and then you the way it transitions from that to the you think you've hit the movie's peak, like it's not going to get higher than this, and then every single time you watch it, it gets you again with that. Oh yeah, we still got to
Yeah,
find Buffalo Bill.
exactly.
We
And
thought we had him, we don't. Yeah,
the
he's still missing.
yeah, the misdirect on that and
Uh-huh.
the performances and the girl still in the well, like this is
when she's
such a good
screaming,
movie.
when she's
Yeah.
screaming at her because Clarice finds her and she's like, I'm
She's like, "I
here.
can't get you
Don't
out
worry,
yet. I need to get the
FBI.
guy
And
first."
and it's another really good part of this movie. I do love that scene where she
So
starts
human.
screaming. When she starts screaming, she's so mad at her, which is exactly what she has every right to be. She is totally justified in being like, "Get me out of! I've been down here for who knows, like I forget how many days at this point." So it's a really really great performance from her, and it's a very it makes the rest of that scene when the lights go out and she's you know wandering around in the darkness. it adds so many stakes to that because you care about this girl who is, yes, like the daughter of a politician, but you've also seen at this point is somebody who has dreams for herself and who has a name and whose parents miss her and who was willing to gut the dog so that she could get out of there.
Well,
It's
and the
I
only
love
reason that Buffalo Bill got her anyways, because she
yeah.
had a heart for a minute and was trying to help him. Fell
She
for
and
his
you can see even on her face when she does that, like a little hesitant, like I don't know about this. This probably isn't a good idea, but she decides
I
to. She
that
goes for
scene
it.
every time I see it, like that's an effective scene that's very unsettling. I I imagine if you're watching that as a woman, like that is just like letting like as a man, I'm
Every
going like
siren
I
is
was like,
like,
"What are you
don't,
doing? Go
don't.
away!" Like don't go near this guy. Like ugh, like yuck. But it's like
Yeah,
that's how because that one I'm pretty sure like Buffalo Bill's an amalgam in particular of about 3 or 4 various nefarious people.
it seems like he's probably Ed Gain. Like I get a lot of Ed Gain
I
energy
think
from
the
him.
Ted
I don't know who else it'd
Bundy
be.
Ted
Sure.
Bundy was one of them. I think he was one of the ones who would like lure people in, like pretending to be handicapped or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
then when they would help him, he'd pull him in a van or
Pull him into the
whatever. Like
car. Yeah. Yeah.
that's just like in and of it's like just watching that like that's really unsettling. It's not
Uh-huh.
gory, it's not gross, it's not like fantastical. It's just really like human evil is very interesting, but it's just deeply unsettling.
It taps into that very primal fear, which obviously, people get really hung up on. That just like you see somebody alone, at night walking down the street, you are 99% sure that it's probably just another person. But there's that
But
part
what
of you like,
if?
what if they're a freak? What if they're some sort of weirdo? What like you just tense up, you just do it. And this movie taps into that because she's been having like all we know about this girl so far. She loves Tom Petty. She's having a nice nighttime ride, and and so that yeah, and I think that's what really pulls you into the mystery. And they do such a good job when they're the press conference that Clarice is watching
Mhm.
with her friend, and she says something like the her friend notes that she's saying her name a lot, and Clarice is like, she's being smart.
Yeah,
She's
she's
trying to
humanizing
humanize it.
her.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is also just a really great moment where you do see Clarice's competence, that she's a trainee, but she has really good instincts for how other people think and what motivates them and what they're trying to do. That's sort of her probably superpower in this movie is she just reads people really well and has a good can kind of figure out what's going on until the very end when she really needs to, when she goes into the Buffalo Bill house and she doesn't figure out until just a second too late that she's standing right next to a serial killer.
So I would love to just briefly before we get to the end here, like Buffalo Bill's a really interesting character, and
Yeah.
I think it's easy to like you could watch this one time and just paint him with a really broad brush. But I really loved I think it was the silence. There were 3 or 4 big scenes with Clarice and Lecter. I forget which one it was, if it was the third or the fourth one, where like he's like everything you need to know about this guy is in this file. No, that was the last one before the escape. He's like, it's all here. Like
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
you need is right here.
Uh-huh.
Like, and he's like playing a game with her. He's let's solve the
Uh-huh.
puzzle. Okay, I've solved it.
Yeah.
Can you solve it? Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
let me help.
He
Like
throws all the pieces on the ground and is like, "Your turn. I can see it." And
he's getting a charge out of like bringing her along. Like in his broken humanity, he is still trying to help in a way.
mhm.
Like I don't think he necessarily cares about these victims, but he cares about Clarice accomplishing her task, which is saving them at this point a little. It's very muddled, but like the climax of that is he's saying like you need to break it down simply. And like at his essence, like we would say Buffalo Bill's deadly sin is that of coveting. Like he
Mhm.
wants what he can't have, and then they again are like, we're not saying he's a transsexual person, but for whatever reason, like the movie's very interested in systems, like systems of oppression or systems that will leave certain folks with a bad experience. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
for whatever reason,
Yeah, that's a good way to
Buffalo
put it. Yeah.
Bill's formative life, whether he was actually a queer person on the spectrum in some way or just not as tough and manly in this manly man's world, like he was made to feel less than, and now he's um he is trying to explore that side of himself. He is wanting something that he doesn't have, and he's using very, very extreme unhealthy means to try to
Hmm.
experience that in some way. And that's kind of the key. Like that's much more interesting than, oh, he's like a sex criminal or a crazy person or what
Yeah,
have
he's not
you.
a Batman villain. You know, he's got something actually, like a very recognizably human amount of disorders and dysfunction and brokenness in him that is manifesting as something very awful. And I think what this movie gets about these people is that, that they are they are not there are no such thing as human monsters. They're just people who've been broken and broken and broken until something in them flips and it is just no longer recognizably human to us. But Demi still sees it, even if the rest of us don't. Even if the rest of the people in the movie don't. The rest of the FBI doesn't. And the reason that she's able to crack this is because she's thinking about him not like a computer program or even a puzzle, to your point, that has to be solved, but as what does a person want? Like, what is coveting, covets, wants what he can't have. And that ends up being the key. Again, she understands that people have motives, that people have reasons for doing the things that they're doing, no matter how sick those reasons are, and she can sort of intuit what those reasons might be, and it's how she ends up saving the girl. He is a very yeah. He Buffalo Bill is not to Demi, I don't think, just a plot device or
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
just a
Not a
like
punchline either. Like a lot of
he's not
people,
demon. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a lot of in pop culture, you see a lot of jokes about it. And this movie is not jokey about it. This
No,
movie
it
isn't
doesn't.
like this is a crazy person or this is hilarious. This is sad.
Uh-huh. I think
It's
that's yeah,
terrifying, but
yeah.
it's very sad. Whether it was the relationship with the mother or the way other men treated him, whatever it was that led what I forget Buffalo Bill's real name, but this guy, whatever broke him so deeply, like it's not funny and it's not, oh, he's a weirdo. It's like this is really, really sad because the things he's doing, like when he's looking down in the well, it I imagine it would get a lot of laughs in theaters, like, and she screams and like he kind of screams back mockingly, like
Yeah, yeah, he's
trying
making
to
fun
like
of her.
mirror her. Like it's such a it's such a like a truly weird thing because it's like he's making fun of her a little bit, but he's also mirroring her like in his broken pursuit to become like her. Like it's such a truly odd place that he is in. And yeah, it's not maniacal and it's not funny. Like it
It's
really is broken and sad.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of credit has to go to Levine's performance here, which is quite nicely
Brave.
calibrated.
It's
Yeah,
intense.
definitely brave. Yeah, I would not. I don't think if I was an actor in Hollywood, I think my agent would be like, I think you want to pass on this one. You don't want to get
Yeah.
be known as this guy. Um, but it's not caricature. It does not ever fall into a. It could be so cartoony and so just like sneeringly evil,
Well,
with her
dancing
dad in the
around
well,
tucked,
like
like he really
yeah,
sold
yeah,
that as
yeah,
a not joke.
as a thing that this is something this person does for reasons that we can't fully grasp, but they're reasons that make sense to him. And I think that makes the movie, it makes it more chilling. It makes the end more effective
because
because
it's
you
taken
feel like,
seriously. It's not a
yeah,
cartoon.
and you can kind of see even at the end, because you're going again, and this is such a brave move to go then into this person's POV for the big finale. You spent the entire movie being like, what is this guy's deal? Like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden you are him in a basement. You're walking around in the basement. And there's a few points where he reaches out and he kind of almost touches her, like, and you see her eyes dart around, and you get the sense then that, like, it seems like he could maybe have gotten her then if he really wanted to. Like,
Absolutely.
he had the opportunity, but he either didn't know what to do, or he was confused, or he was
Just
scared.
fascinating, like, the whole of,
Yeah,
like, "Oh, a woman, like, this like,
yeah,
what an
yeah. But
incredible woman, like, I have in front of
uh,
me," like, it's yeah.
he maybe wants to torment, and it ends up being obviously his undoing. But you've seen so much of him being somebody who doesn't do what makes sense to us, that part works. That you're not wondering, like, why does he just run up and like tackle her or whatever, or throw her down in the like, why doesn't her with the knife? It all works because we understand that he's somebody with a lot of brokenness and a lot of strangeness, and he doesn't do what, like, like what the Green Goblin would do in a Spider-Man movie. He's a
Totally.
weirder dude. Yeah, and that's part of the reason that yeah, I really think that, and I want to be careful here because I know there are people who've had some real issues with the way his gender is dealt with. It was the
Sure.
early '90s. There was not a lot of queer representation on screen at that point, so I understand why some people were like, "Oh, we get like no gay people in movies ever, and now we finally get a trans person and he's a serial killer." So I understand that being why people would feel a little weird about that. And I think Demi even at some point expressed some, like, yeah, maybe the representation thing was probably not the best for the trans community. Um, but I do think this avoids being a trope
Oh,
of
yeah.
this person is messed up because not only are they a serial killer, but also they dress up like a girl. Like, I don't think that's how this movie depicts Buffalo Bill.
Yeah,
I
not
think
at
it's a
all.
much more human, dimensional, and rounded depiction of sociopath.
Yeah, and then the actual end kinda gets us back on Hannibal's side a little bit, that little,
Yeah,
tag at the
walking
end.
away. Yeah, yeah, dude. That
He's like, because he's proud of Clarice and going to take care of a guy we don't like.
he's gonna have somebody over for dinner. I'm having a friend for dinner. He loved that. He must have. He probably had that one in the back pocket for a long time. And Hopkins does such a good job delivering it. And I'd forgotten how long like we watch him walk into the crowd for a long time at the end there.
Mhm.
They really linger on him kind of vanishing into the crowds, and let that sense of he could be anywhere. He could be in any crowd. He could be in, you better be nice to everybody because you never know when the person you're rude to might be the kind of guy who kills and eats people because they're rude to him.
Yep. Phenomenal movie. Like, I
Yeah,
think it's deserved all the acclaim, and honestly, hasn't really lost any of its power, and if anything, it feels like all of the things that the movie touches, especially with, like, the systems and the gender and the power and the American violence, like, all of that
yeah,
still is very, very, poignant.
very ahead of its time in so many ways. Mostly, I think, by not trying to be like, you don't really get the sense that anybody here thought they were making the great American movie, although
Oh, no.
it's on a lot of lists of best movies of all time. It just seems like everybody involved was doing what they did at the absolute peak of were one of the best in the business at that time, doing what they wanted. Foster, I think, is great. I know that we didn't really talk about this, but she was not the first pick for Clarice.
Oh,
She
no,
wasn't
yeah.
even. She was way down the list, if I remember correctly. There were a lot of other, but she wanted it. They went to, who did they go to? Laura Dern, I think, was up for it,
I could have seen that.
and Sure, she'd be. I mean, love Laura Dern. I think I'm not Meg Ryan. Pfeiffer. That's who we went to first. I think Demi really wanted Michelle Pfeiffer, and
Okay.
she was like, "This is kind of messed up. I don't think I want to do this." And then Meg Ryan felt the same way. I think Laura Dern was down, but the studio was like, we nobody knows who Laura Dern is. And then
Yeah,
Foster
Jodie Foster
was
really fought for it.
Foster said, I can do this. I get it. And I think Demi kind of was like, well, if she wants it that bad, then there must be something there. And ended up obviously being the right choice for it. And I don't think Hopkins was even the number one choice. He was not that big of an actor at this point. I
They
think.
definitely told that story on the commentary, but I didn't write that down. I
Oh,
forgot
really?
what else.
I wrote a
Yeah.
list. I wrote it down in my notes here somewhere. Hang on, I made it. Oh, Connery. Yeah, Sean
Yeah.
Connery was
Woof.
first
A
choice.
phenomenal actor,
Yeah,
but really,
love
really,
Sean.
whoa,
Love nothing but
man.
love for Sean Connery, but it would have been he would have dominated that movie so much. Like it would have been
It
such
might have
a.
been a cartoon a little bit like a census taker once tried to
I ate
test
his
me.
liver with some
Yeah.
fava beans.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Everything, as often happens with these movies, everything kind of worked out the way it was supposed to, even if it wasn't everybody's first choice for how it was supposed
Definitely.
to all work out. But I love this movie, and whenever I go back to it, I'm reminded of why it has it's aged really really well, aged very well considering how complicated and fraught the material is. It doesn't seem like the sort of movie that would age well,
Yeah,
and yet it still retains a lot of its power, both to really scare you and to be really exciting, kind of funny in some parts, here and there, but also just to be such a powerful character analysis of these two people who are very lonely and are not really understood by anybody else around them, but find a connection that neither of them is particularly proud of in each other, and
absolutely.
need to use that pragmatically to get what they want.
Have you ever gotten to see this in a theater before?
I've never seen it in the theater. I don't think, not that I recall. No, I don't think I've ever seen it in the theater.
A year or two ago, I got to see Manhunter in a theater, and that was
Okay,
phenomenal.
yeah,
I
I do
really
love
hope I get this.
Manhunter. I love Manhunter.
It
That's another
slaps.
great one. I like it. I like
We
that
should
one. I've
cover
got
that one on the show sometime. Yeah, what do you
I
think of
have a
the
little
other
bit of
Hannibal
love.
materials?
It's a pretty steep decline after that. I think the performances stay pretty good generally. Hopkins gets to be a little bit diminishing returns after a while, but I think Red Dragon has its moments.
I did
Um,
not love Red Dragon. I like
I,
the attack scene where
yeah,
he attacks
very
Will
cool.
Graham.
Yeah,
Like,
very very cool. Yeah,
I like that. But I think that was the only thing. Brett Ratner, not a fan. But like
no,
Manhunter is so good. Manhunter
yeah.
is so good. And then they also in season 3 of the show they did Red Dragon again. So we got 3
We got
versions of that
a better one.
story.
That show is so weird. I kind of love it, and I obviously love
The first
Mads.
2 seasons are real like
Yeah,
I didn't watch it for
pretty good.
so long.
Yeah,
That was one that sometime during COVID when I was just looking for things to watch, I was like, I heard it has its fans. Let me play the pilot and see what happens. And I was like, whoa, like
its fans were intense. Its fans
kind of
like that
really
fan
good.
base.
And then I
Yeah,
ripped through
yeah.
the first 2 seasons, like I was like, wait a second, like this is kind of a really great show that's also low key. It feels like an HBO or a Showtime show that was on NBC at like nine
Yeah,
o'clock. Some of the grisliness in this show, I feel like, is maybe the gnarliest stuff that's ever been on network television.
it's gotta be. Yeah, for sure. Some of the death tableaus that he would create
The
were
woman
so.
that got like in like the little
Mhm.
splices, I was like, whoa, what
Yeah,
are we
that
doing
was.
here, NBC?
It was one of those kind of like every now and then you go back and you see something like that, like any David Lynch that like Twin Peaks or even Lost that you're like, this was on network T. What were they? What was going on? What was in the water then? This was playing back like up against I don't know, like the Big Bang Theory, like
Yeah, or like The Rookie or whatever, and then
yeah.
it's like, oh, then a Hannibal where
Uh,
but yeah, I think Mads is great. And it also like TV, I don't think it needed to be a show. The show is pretty great. But
Uh-huh.
like if you have whatever 2 seasons of 12 or 13 episodes or whatever, that's a lot of hours to really
It's a
kind of
lot of time, yeah,
build a
and it's
character versus
obviously
Hopkins is like 12 minutes.
uh-huh, and it's a tough one. I mean, it's one of those that sounds like it really wouldn't work. Like, I don't think a TV show about because I think the thing about Sons of the Lambs that very few of the other iterations have, other than Manhunter, is I think Hannibal really is at his most interesting when he's behind bars,
Yeah.
when he's playing everybody out, he's seeing, this is now used to death in so many other shows where the
Yeah.
villain who is in prison, but who's really in prison, like, is he exactly where he wants to be actually? They use this in The Dark Knight, they do this in Avengers with Loki, they do this, I think one of the Bond movies did something like this, but it's so effective with Silence of the Lambs, and I do think it's loses Hannibal becomes a little less interesting when he's out in the world doing whatever he wants to do. And the way the TV show kind of gets around it is he's kind of in a
It's a
prison of his
prequel.
own mind. He's like he can't be his full self, so he's holding back as a person in some ways, or having to kind of have a dual identity thing going on that helps the show quite a bit, and
Totally.
Mads performance is great in that. I finished Andor, so I jumped right into Rogue One.
Nice. Mads
Forgot
is
that
great.
Mads is in that for all of like 30 seconds, but he's very, very good in it. It's a really effective. He's such whenever he shows up, he's just got something interesting. His face is so interesting. He's like
He
too
does have a
handsome. You're
wonderful
like, what's
face.
going on? Like there you shouldn't be this, like, it feels like a composite of three or four other handsome people in a way that shouldn't belong together, and you just can't stop looking at him. He's of everybody. It's kind of interesting between him, Hopkins, and Brian Cox. You've got three really, really solid performances of Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, not a bad one of them.
Career defining roles for all of these guys, other than Cox. Until Succession, that was probably Cox's defining role.
No, I'm glad you picked this, or at least suggested it, because I think more people who haven't seen it and who kind of know, oh yeah, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter, like if you haven't seen this,
Yeah.
or if you haven't seen this in a while, I think 4 or 5 years ago was when I kind of reintroduced myself to it, and it kind of shot up as like, no, like this is actually a phenomenal movie. It's worth a
It's an
watch or a
all-timer.
rewatch.
Yeah, it's an all-timer. I think that it is a very ugly movie about some very beautiful things in the
Absolutely.
final analysis of it. And if nothing else, if you just appreciate seeing a movie done about as well as a movie can be done, to me, that you're not going to find one that's handled much better than Silence of the Lambs.
Agreed. Well, let's transition over to substance shout outs. Tyler, I know you're a man of culture. What have you been reading, watching, listening to? What's been exciting,
Yeah.
edifying, or distracting in these present times that you think is worthwhile to recommend to some folks?
I am like I said, just finished Andor. Thought that was very, very good, like everybody else. I'll recommend something that I'm enjoying a lot. This is a book that I'm sure many of your listeners have read. It's a very famous novel that I was published around a little before I was born. Um, but Lonesome Dove by McNulty, an old Western, won the Pulitzer Prize when it came out. Very long book, it's about 800 pages, so be ready for that. But having heard about it all my life, having heard about the TV miniseries that stars, I think it's Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones. I haven't seen it, but I know it was made into a very well received miniseries. I think in the early '90s, perhaps. But it's a very good book. It's cowboys. It's a Western. But the prose is handled so well, very, very moving, very funny. Um, and I'm kind of a sucker for Westerns anyway. So to see one done at this level is just, I'm having a great time with it. I'll be reading it for a long time because, like I said, it's very long, but it's every free chance I get, I'm looking to sidle up with that one. So that's a shout out for me.
Any great movies you've seen recently?
Let's see, the last movie,
Or
new
new to
movie,
you?
we should say, yeah, or new to me, sure. Um, the other, what have I watched? You know, this is, I would assume almost everybody who, uh, this is not new to me, but I did go, the experience of this was new to me. I had not done this before, but I went down to the Nashville Symphony Opera House to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark with the Nashville Symphony
Nice.
playing the score for it. I've never done one of those before, where the score is live.
I've
They
never done
just
that
have the
either.
movie. I had a great time. It was very fun. I really really enjoyed it. I was worried a little bit that the score would kind of overpower. You know, I don't know how they do these. How is it going to be way too loud? Am I going to be able to think about anything besides the fact that they're playing? But they did it really well, and it was. I love Raiders, and my wife had never seen it, so she saw it for the first time. So
She had never seen it?
yeah, yeah, you know. I
Whoa.
mean, you know, it's a guy, it's a dad thing. Um, I, so we saw that there, but I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love seeing it in that format. If you are near a symphony that does anything like that over the summer, then I would highly recommend it because I really did enjoy that. And then a new-ish one, I think new to streaming anyway, is Black Bag, Steven
Oh,
Soderbergh's
Soderbergh, yeah.
movie. Yeah, yeah, I'm a big
Yeah, I
Soderbergh
just
guy. I
saw
love
that hit
Soderbergh.
Peacock. I do wanna see that sometime.
It's a blast. It's 90 minutes. You can sit down and eat over it. It's a great time. You got Fassbender and Kate Blanchett playing a
Nice.
married couple who are spies. It's the setup sounds like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but the execution is pure Soderbergh. It's very talky and very clever back and forth dialogue. Really, really fun. I had a blast with it.
That looks great. I do need to see that. I'll say, this is actually one that, I don't know, in the coming months, I don't know what the release date is. I was recently invited back on to the Projection Booth podcast, one of my favorites. I think it's the longest, movie podcast that I've listened to for long, long, long time. I don't think he was intending to when he invited me on for this very underseen movie that actually ended up being a very strong substantive cinema pick. A Brazilian movie from 1962 that won the Palme d'Or, O Pagador de Promessas, which roughly translates to the given word or the given promise. Really fascinating movie. Sometime in the coming
I'm not
months,
familiar with it. Oh,
my
yeah, I gotta
episode will
check
come
this
out
out.
on the Projection Booth. It's about a guy who makes a promise to save a friend of his life, to Saint Barbara, and when he goes to like fulfill his promise, gets into a clash with the priest at the church, and it's very interesting. Really, really wonderful movie. And the other one, this one is shocking to me. This was not new to me, but if you guys listen to the Panic Fest recap episode we did with Justin here at Rainy Day Books in Kansas City, he runs Don't Just Watch the Movie Book Club, where we read a book and then. So this is really cool. This is a Kansas City plug here again for Rainy Day Books and Screenland Armor Theater, kind of like the independent bookstore of Kansas City and the independent movie theater of Kansas City for the last year or so. Every month, there's like a book movie club where they read a book that has been adapted into a movie, and we watch the movie and read the book. Last month, we did Zack Snyder and Alan Moore's Watchmen, and it's always great to reread Watchmen. Watching
Sure.
Zack Snyder's Watchmen in 2025 hit way harder than I thought it
Oh,
would.
interesting. Yeah, because I haven't seen that one since the theater.
I don't think
When
I've
it
seen it
first
since
came out.
2009.
Yeah.
Maybe I watched it once on DVD in 2010, but I haven't watched this movie in 15 years. Kind of slaps. Like
No
Zack
way.
Snyder
Okay. You
is
know,
is what he is
we've all
somebody
got things
who,
about Zack Snyder, and
yeah, he
I quite enjoyed the HBO Watchmen show.
very much
Linda
so. But
Loft.
like
Yeah, I thought that was quite good.
with all the superhero slop we've been given on film and
Sure.
television and the societal corporate political decay, it, the book brought to life with just a couple of small changes hit pretty hard. I was kind of stunned at how effective it was. Obviously, Watchmen's a
yeah,
great story, but I was like,
the
wow,
book forever, yeah, forever relevant. That book, and probably more since it came out of the Reagan era.
yeah.
Probably more relevant now than it has been in
Yeah,
quite some
man.
time.
When they say in the movie, oh, like Reagan elected for a third term, like the whole theater's kind of like, oh, like this isn't very fun right now. This is not very enjoyable.
Well, that's interesting. I would give that. Watching a Zack Snyder movie is always a little bit of a complicated.
Yeah.
But it always looks good. Guy's got a hell of an eye, and so worst case scenario, you hear some
Record
needle
drop
drops,
needle
some
drops were
like
on the
from
nose, but
some like 0 inch deep, like just the first thing that comes to mind, needle drops. But it can look pretty cool. It can look pretty cool sometimes. I'm not a total hater on Snyder.
no. But yeah, I was just surprised at how well that landed.
All right, all
I
right,
feel
all
like there
right.
was one book too. That'll be fine for now. 2 movies is fine.
All
Why
right,
not?
all right, all right. Sounds good. You gave me something. I'd never heard of The Given Word, so this looks great.
It's good. I think
I
that
just
that is like
I just
I'll
popped it
email a
on
couple
the
of my contacts. You can find it on like YouTube in the Internet Archive.
sure.
That's one that I think if like Radiance or Imprint or Kino put out a Blu-ray or a 4K, like because it won the Palme d'Or, but it's one I'd never even heard of.
Yeah,
So
62.
I think it's
It's got
ripe
very good.
for rediscovery.
The critics agree
Yeah,
on this one. Everyone loves it, so I'm gonna have to give
ripe,
it a shot.
ripe for rediscovery.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm excited.
Tyler, where can folks find you, or with Sojourners? Is there anything in particular where you want to direct attention?
Yeah, we talked about Blue Sky. You can find me there, Tyler Huckabee. Pretty much on everything that is even just my name, all one word. And then obviously at Sojo, over at Sojourners, I'm managing editor there, so I do a lot more editing than I do actual writing. But every now and then you'll see a piece of mine go up. Most recently, I reviewed The Sin of Empathy by Joe Rigney, a book about how bad empathy is. So if you're curious about my thoughts on that book, you can find that over there. And I'm sure I'll have something else coming out soon. But always good stuff going up every day at sojo.net. So would love to
What
see
an
y'all there.
insane thing to write a book about, but here we are.
Yeah, yeah, I read it, so you don't have to.
Thank you.
That's what I do for you people.
Thank you for your service. There's no way I was going to read it, but wow. Thank you
Well,
for your
I'm not.
service.
You might be wondering. Oh, Tyler actually took time to read it. Maybe it's actually better. Maybe he makes some good points there. The title doesn't quite get it, and I'll give you a little spoiler alert. No, it, it's not a good book, and the point leaves much to be desired, in my opinion. But you can read it out. You go check it out. Go check
Yeah,
it
I'll check out your article maybe.
out. There you go. All right, I'll take that. I accept it. But
Tyler's
thanks for
great.
having me on. I had a
Yeah,
great time.
man.
Love talking about this movie. Love talking
Good.
about any movie with you, but love talking
Yeah.
about this movie especially.
Great catching up with you. I would love to talk with your colleagues either on regular Substance episodes or Substantive Cinema. I know you got a lot of people
Sure,
engaged in
sure.
very
I'll send a few your
valuable.
way.
Yeah, you got people engaged in really valuable cultural, spiritual things that not everybody else is. So I always appreciate seeing that.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate this podcast and love the movies that you guys talk about. You do a great job handling some heady stuff, and a pleasure to be in such good company. So many cool guests on this podcast too. I always feel I know I'm the favorite, obviously, but still feels good to be
Obviously.
around. Lots
I
of
mean,
good
Straight
friends who
Story and
appear on.
Silence of the Lamb. Straight Story
Two
on any
bangers,
given
yes.
day might be my favorite Lynch. I'm much more of a Lynch fan now over the years. Like, I don't know what Straight Story honestly really did like unlock Lynch for me. Like,
I think a
and
lot of people feel that way. It's a great entry point
yeah, there's
to his
nothing of
whole
his that
thing.
I don't like. Actually, I haven't revisited Inland Empire. That one's still a
Yeah,
little bit difficult for me.
it's the hardest one for sure.
But
It's the most obtuse to get into, but I do. Mulholland is my favorite. I rewatched that. They had that down here at our local indie theater after he passed away, so got to go see that again. Had a really good time. But people who know me know that I'm crazy about David Lynch and everything from Straight Story to The Elephant Man to Twin Peaks, obviously.
Where Anthony Hopkins also does play a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kind of. It was probably like the last really big thing he was in before Silence of the
I
Lambs.
think
I
so. It was
think.
late
I don't
80s.
know if there's. Yeah, I don't know if there's another really big thing between the two of those.
Very different doctors.
Yeah, they are.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk to you before too long, Tyler, but it was
All right,
good
looking
having you
forward to it.
back, and appreciate it, man.
All right, appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
So there you go, Silence of the Lambs. It was so good having Tyler back on. It was really great to revisit this movie kind of critically for this show. Had a great time with it. Check it out. It's currently streaming on Max, and there's a great Criterion Blu-ray. Maybe check it out at your local library. Really wonderful movie if you haven't seen it. Highly recommend it. Okay, future announcements on what's going on here at The Substance. I am actually pretty excited to. So this episode was delayed. Apologies. And kind of on that note, excited to announce that for the month of June in 2025, we are taking a break on publishing new episodes. This will be the only episode you see in our feed for June. Actually, I might do like little mini updates just to kind of keep the feed alive for the podcast overlords so that they see things. I might just throw up an unedited, like 10-15 minute kind of here's what we're working on updates, because we're not done with The Substance. I just don't want to get burned out. And we've got some good stuff in the can, a lot of good stuff on the calendar, hoping to record and edit a bunch over this month so I can kind of get ahead of things so that it's not like every week, every other week, we're just kind of chasing our tail and I'm just tired. So, and just it's summertime. My kid had his first year at school, had a great time, but gonna hit the zoo, gonna hit the museums, gonna maybe take little weekends here and there. So excited to take a little bit of time off from the publishing regular schedule. But yeah, I've got some exciting stuff. July, an early episode. We've already got that one in the can with poet David Gate. He, if you're on our Instagram or our Blue Sky, Threads, whatever, you've seen us posting about that. He's a really wonderful poet with an incredible collection coming out in July called A Rebellion of Care. Really, really wonderful resource. Many of you are already following him. But check him out if you haven't. That episode's coming out in July. Have some great substantive cinemas lined up. Have some great books coming out with other artists and people doing good work in their communities. So that's what we've got for the next month. Nothing other than some maybe updates, but filling up the can, filling up our tank, podcast episode wise, and just kind of personally. So looking forward to that. So yeah, we've got a library of 176 previous episodes. If you're newer to the show, got a lot of great stuff. Check it out. I might even highlight some of those episodes on my little updates. That actually might be a good idea. I might write that down. I can't write that down right now because I don't have a pen, but that's what we have coming up. Rate and review if you would, and if you want to give us a couple bucks and just be a part of things going forward, we appreciate that a lot. You can do that at Cash App at $ the Substance Pod. Looking to get some physical materials made to do some guerrilla marketing. We've talked to so many artists and authors that every now and then pop in the local and chain store sometimes and just slip little things in there. Like if it's like with David Gate, like when his book comes out and I'm in a store and I see his book, I might be like, oh, throw a little substance thing in there. Like we talked to this author, QR codes, whatever. So if you want to help us print those materials, things like that, cover those costs, and for hosting, etc., you can do that at $ the Substance Pod on Cash App. So again, next week you might have a little bit of an update. We'll see. But no new full episodes until July. And yeah, looking forward to that. So until then, I've been your host, Philip Marinello, and we will see you next time on The Substance.
If Tom Cruise is the president of movies, then Letterboxd is his Senate. They've done so much glazing, but I'm part of it too. Like I fully believe I have it. You can keep this on. I don't care. But I fully believe that Tom Cruise is probably like an evil guy in some respect. Like he is probably like knows where bodies are buried, and he's also like the coolest guy who's ever lived. And I can't. Life is a rich tapestry. You just I can't square those two things, but they are both true.